All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking a really massive story from the world of global finance. It's all about Pakistan's monumental 4-year mission to get off a super high-stakes international watch list. This was a journey of intense pressure, huge reforms, and a massive national effort to rejoin the global financial mainstream.
So let me ask you this. What do you think is the most feared watch list in global finance? It's not run by spies or anything like that. No, this is the kind of list that puts a country's entire economy under a microscope, making every single dollar moving in or out a subject of intense, and I mean intense, scrutiny.
And the organization behind this list? It's the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF. The easiest way to think of them is as the global watchdog for the whole financial system. Their whole job is to set the rules of the road that countries have to follow to stop bad actors from moving dirty money around the world. It's all about protecting the system that, we all depend on.
Now, the FATF basically has two lists. And trust me, you do not want to be on either of them. The gray list means you're under increased monitoring. This causes some serious economic headaches. Doing business internationally gets way harder and a lot more expensive. But the blacklist, well, that's a whole other level of trouble. It's a call to action, which is basically a fancy way of saying a country is quarantined from the global financial system. It's a total economic lockdown. So yeah, the stakes are incredibly high.
So that brings us right to our first section, the problem. Why on earth did Pakistan end up on this gray list in the first place back in 2018? Well, this wasn't some quick thing. The whole journey kicked off in June 2018 when Pakistan was put on the list. And over the next 4 years, there were these critical reports, new challenges popping up. Like, get this, a whole second action plan was added in 2021, and it all led up to a final nail-biting decision in October 2022. This was a marathon, not a sprint.
So what were the big issues? Back in 2018, the FITF pointed to what they called structural deficiencies. We're talking about not having the right laws to fight terror financing and money laundering, different government agencies not talking to each other, no real tools to even figure out where the risks were, and weak systems for working with other countries. The system basically had some pretty significant gaps.
And this slide right here, wow, it just shows you how huge the challenge was. That first big report in 2019 laid it all bare. Just look at this. Out of 40 key FATF recommendations, the global standards, Pakistan was non-compliant or only partially compliant on a staggering 30 of them. That is a massive gap to close. Which brings us to the next part of the story, the prescription. To fix all this, the FATF handed Pakistan what you can only really describe as a 34-point gauntlet. Now, what's so fascinating here is the process itself. It wasn't just about ticking boxes on one to-do list. Pakistan was under what's called a dual evaluation. Think about this for a second. It meant they had to show progress on these specific action plans designed just for them, and at the exact same time, improved overall compliance with all 40 of the FATF's global standards. It was this relentless two-track challenge.
And the challenge just kept getting bigger. It started in 2018 with that 27-point plan on terror financing. But then, in 2021, came the twist. Just as they were getting close to finishing the first plan, boom, the FATF added a new 7-point plan, this time focused on money laundering. All while that constant goal of improving overall compliance was always there in the background. So the response had to be absolutely massive. We're not talking about just tweaking a few policies. This was a complete overhaul. This huge national effort led to amending 15 different laws and passing over 30 new sets of rules and regulations. It just gives you a sense of the sheer scale of the work that had to get done. Okay, so after all of that unbelievable work, what was the result? Let's get to the climax of this whole story, the compliance turnaround. And here it is, the big question. After 4 years of these relentless, sweeping reforms across laws, regulations, and entire government agencies, did it actually work? The answer is right here on this slide. On the left, that's the 2019 report, a sea of partially compliant and non-compliant. Now just look to the right at the 2022 report. The change is absolutely dramatic. The green compliant and largely compliant numbers have just skyrocketed. I mean, the visual transformation here tells the entire story. And here's the headline number. By February 2022, Pakistan was rated compliant or largely compliant on 38 out of the 40 FATF recommendations. They went from only 10 in 2019 to 38 just 3 years later. That is a truly remarkable turnaround.
And if you want to see just how deep these changes went, look at these specific examples. Recommendation 28. That's about regulating businesses outside of banks, like real estate agents or jewelers, places where a lot of cash can move around. That jumped from partially compliant to largely compliant. Or check out Recommendation 37 on helping other countries with legal cases. That went from non-compliant, the lowest rating, all the way up to largely compliant. These aren't small fixes. They're fundamental changes to how the country's financial system works. So with such an amazing report card, what was left to do? Let's take a look at the finish line and what happens next. You'd think getting those great ratings would be the end of it, right? But nope. Turns out there's one last hurdle for any country. It's a successful on-site visit. A team from the FATF physically travels to the country to check that all these new laws and systems aren't just on paper, that they're actually working in the real world and are built to last. And why does all this matter so much? I mean, why go through all this trouble? Well, getting off the GRI list has massive real-world benefits. It means less scrutiny from global banks, which makes it cheaper to do business internationally. It has a real positive impact on the economy. And just as important, it sends a signal to the whole world that the country now has a much stronger, more transparent financial system. And just to put this whole 4-year effort into perspective, the analysis we're looking at here describes this whole process as, and I'm quoting, the most comprehensive and ambitious tasks ever handed to any country by the FATF. This wasn't just another day at the office. It was pretty much historic in its scale and difficulty. And that really brings us to our final thought. Pakistan fundamentally rebuilt its system to pass an incredibly difficult test. The reforms are now law, and the results speak for themselves. But the real question now is about what comes next. Can this new, more robust financial framework actually be sustained for the long run? That's the challenge that lies ahead.